Hello and welcome to Food Rebels, and this is our first ever Food Rebels show, and I'm so excited to be bringing this to you guys. My name's AJ Sharp. You might remember me from some other food radio programs, but this is a brand new proposition from our lovely production team, and this is all about the exciting world of food founders, drinks founders, challenger brands, and we want to celebrate the people in food who are doing things a little bit differently. Each show is going to be 30 minutes, and we will be providing a peek behind the curtain, on-air tastings, and food and drink-based entertainment for our listeners around the UK and further afield. And I'm so excited about this first show. I'm particularly excited to have the really lovely Susie Pelter joining us. Thank you so much for being here, Susie.
Thank you for having me for the first show. I'm so excited for you.
Susie is a food presenter, demo chef, food judge, recipe writer, brand consultant, and all-round foodie legend. This week's show is going to be about, we're calling it the perfect pairing. And we are looking at plant-based pizza and plant-based cheese.
I know, I can see them right in front of me now.
I mean, plant-based has been so exciting, hasn't it, over the past couple of years?
It's evolved, developed, changed, and become more delicious, more accessible, and cleverer, I think.
100%. I mean, when we were judging, maybe 6 years ago,
Yeah.
I can remember having some plant-based cheese and things and us all just finding it difficult, challenging.
Yes. We're not going to lie. Yeah, it was.
It was, wasn't it?
But it's changed. This year, tasting plant-based cheeses has been completely a whole new experience.
I mean, so authentic, unbelievably incredible textures, and just complete change, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a husband who's lactose intolerant. I think there is no need for people who can't have dairy, can't have regular cheese to miss out. And I think there's more availability now for them than ever before.
I completely agree. Well, we've got some awesome experts in the studio. We've got Brad Vanstone from Willycroft. Welcome, Brad.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so good. And Joe Hill from One Planet Pizza. Hi, Joe.
Hello. He's got a fantastic voice for this, hasn't he?
He really does. I saw you guys on stage at the Future Food Forum, whenever it was, and I remember thinking, you have got a very good voice for all of this stuff.
You can't.
So, Brad, can you tell us a little bit about Willycroft and your incredible looking cheeses and butters and things that you've brought in here?
For sure. So the name originates from my grandparents' dairy farm. So it was called Willycroft. So we always say it was established 1957 and then reimagined when I moved to Amsterdam in 2018. And our range of plant-based cheeses are based on beans and pulses. So we do that for a lot of different reasons. One, we are aiming to grow those locally. Two, they've got really good protein and fiber. And then also there's a big emissions reduction. So one of the cheeses we'll taste today, for example, is 25 times less than the dairy cheese it's replacing in emissions.
25 times less.
25 times.
Whoa.
It's quite a big reduction.
That's insane. And Joe, can you tell us about One Planet Pizza?
I sure can. Yeah, so me and Mike, my dad, who you've met before.
I have.
So he's been vegan since the 80s. So this is going back quite some time. Had 3 kids, had a very normal, quite liberal upbringing. I turned vegan about 10 years ago with my sister, largely because my grandparents have a pig farm in Norfolk. And we just decided with my dad's influence that we just didn't want to be part of that food system. And then I guess flash forward to 2015, 16, we started talking about how we could build a business that we believed in, passionate about, that was in food when the market really started exploding and getting exciting. And we just couldn't find a decent range of frozen vegan pizzas. So we grew up always having pizza on Friday night, part of our sort of family tradition. And Mike didn't have cheese on his pizza, so we can talk a little bit about how horrible that is later. And really that was where the idea came from. And so we just wanted to make a range of out of this world tasty vegan frozen pizzas that were better for you and better for the planet at the same time, without compromising on taste or price or availability. We've gone through a couple of rebrands and changed the actual pizzas quite a bit, but they're now, I think, as good as they can be, ahead of the competition, and we've just dropped them in Asda, so it's a really exciting time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Can we taste it? Because I'm aware we've got a freshly cooked pizza here, and I don't want it to get cold. Should we crack on and taste it?
Please do.
We absolutely should. I've not eaten today.
We know that's not true. Thank you.
So this looks like a pepperoni and cheese pizza. Can you tell me how you've created the pepperoni type?
Pepperoni, yeah.
Pepperoni.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to talk before I eat this, aren't I?
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Willie, you talk.
So this is version 3 of our pizzas. As you guys mentioned, that the market and the products have evolved rapidly over the last 5-6 years alone. And when we started, even back in 2016, the cheese wasn't melting as well as we liked. It stuck to your mouth really badly, and it looked like vegan cheese from a mile off. And it was the best we could do at the time, but we've constantly had to search for the next best thing. So this is the new sourdough range that are made over in the Netherlands. So we've moved our manufacturing out there, partly because we wanted to not worry about capacity anymore in production, but also we wanted to move to a sourdough base because we know these are healthier, and generally people are looking for that premiumization that's still affordable in the supermarkets. So the pepperoni is a new one for this range, and it's pea based. It's made in Europe. You can't really find it anywhere else. It's from a relatively small manufacturer, but we hunted them down, and I think by far it's the best pepperoni out there. You will probably see more of it in the future. And we moved over very excitingly to what we think's one of the best cheeses out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is beautiful.
It's
isn't it?
excellent. I mean, I think it's so clever. The cheese looks like cheese, and it's glistening, and it's kind of buttery and umami, and it's got the same mouthfeel. And I know I shouldn't sound surprised, but I am, because it's unusual. And the pepperoni, I think pea protein's excellent in meat substitutes. I use it quite a lot. We have meat-free days at home. We are meat eaters, but we do eat a lot of vegan alternatives. And it's very clever how it kind of, again, gives you that satisfying flavour that you would get, but obviously without the meat.
And there's a lovely black pepper kick to the pepperoni that really just makes it. Why can't I say the word pepperoni? Pepperoni.
I can't say it either.
I can't say it.
Do you get paid every time you say pepperami?
Yeah.
I should, shouldn't I?
There is now a vegan pepperami though.
Is there?
This is like the branded. It's really processed.
Is that what I'm getting
not very good.
confused?
I've
Yeah,
tried
it's
it.
not very healthy, but
No.
they do a vegan one.
Do they?
Not on the
Yeah.
pizza yet.
It just tastes so authentic, and
Yeah.
there's herbs on there, and there's all the different flavors and sweetness from the tomato. And the base is perfect pizza base, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that kind of
But it's the cheese for me that, I mean, I was saying before we went on air that my husband often has pizza without cheese on it. And you kind of get this dry, pasty tomato, and it just is so unsatisfying. And here you've got all the flavour you would expect from cheese. But not just that, it's that texture, it's that mouthfeel.
it's lovely. So tell us about the cheese.
Just quick
This guy.
disclaimer first. I do usually eat the crust.
Okay, fine.
Then I eat it up. I'm not one of those people, don't worry. Yeah, the cheese. So this is our Young Dutch. So,
So it's your cheese, isn't it? It's Willie Croft cheese on the top.
It is indeed.
The perfect pair.
Amazing. So there's a whole like Netherlands thing going on with you guys.
There is. Yeah. Well, my surname's Vanstone as well, so maybe I'm tracing some old roots, but we need to dig that out. But yeah, it's our Young Dutch, so it's based on white beans. So by the end of next year, we'll be getting all of the white beans from the Netherlands. So we're 2 years into a 3-year project to get them all from the Netherlands. And you guys mentioned the unami flavor, which I think is really key. It's so central to cheese.
Yeah.
So we've recreated it totally with natural ingredients, and the melt as well was so key to this product because I think there was a lot of good tasting plant-based cheeses even a couple of years ago, but texture has probably been the biggest hurdle to overcome. So that was probably the hardest challenge for us when we brought this product through, and being able to stand up to high temperatures as well.
And you said it's made from, was it beans and pulses?
That's one of the bases. We also use coconut oil as the fat. And then there's a range of different yeasts and miso to give it that kind of real depth of flavor.
Amazing.
It's a very clever balance. And I think also mentioning coconut oil, but not being able to taste it as well. Because often coconut can take over a lot of vegan products that we try as well. Coconut oil is used and it has a purpose, but it overtakes everything in flavour, which doesn't happen here at all.
For sure. The creaminess you mentioned comes from the coconut oil.
Yeah.
So in balance, it's a great ingredient. But if it's the kind of sole base, then indeed it takes over for sure.
Wicked. So you've brought some different things in for us to taste, haven't you? What have you got here?
So
She says greedily, eyeing it.
we have tried the Young Dutch. Obviously, the Greek white is the cheese that I mentioned is 25 times less than a dairy feta. So this is our feta alternative, also white bean based as well. So yeah, you guys can try that one next.
Is this the feta one here?
It is indeed. So it's just a classic kind of salad topper.
How do you make all of this? Do you have your own factory, or are you?
We work with a co-packer.
Yeah.
So we develop all of the recipes ourselves. We do all of the upscaling, and then we have a co-packer just like Joe as well to actually do the volume. Yeah, I think you have to kind of pick your expertise. Like ours is the brand, the development, the impact side of the business, but the sales and distribution and the production that's for other experts, I guess.
This is so awesome. How did you guys meet each other then? How did this even jump into being?
One of the expos, I think, Plant-Based Expo,
Yeah.
year before last, I think was the first time.
So one of the trade shows.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a small world, the plant-based food sector, and
Yeah.
it's very interlinked. And it's a very close-knit group, very supportive, not too much competition. So yeah, we've been in each other's orbits for a few years.
Yeah.
But really, what led to this partnership was when we had to make the decision to close our kitchen down in the UK, which was last year, right in the middle of the cost of living crisis. And that was really tough, but we decided that moving to the Netherlands was by far the best decision at the time. And like Brad, focusing on the areas that you're, the specialist in, which is the brand building, the storytelling. And so this manufacturer said to us, look, we're going to help you reinvent your pizza to this new version. Here's your sourdough base. And then we worked with them on the other improvements. And they said, you really need to find a new cheese partner. Being in Holland would be the sensible thing to do as well. Keep your, travel mileage down and help with costs and availability. So that was really what initiated the early conversation. And we were just very lucky that very quickly we tested it through their factory and it worked, ticked all the boxes. And it just so happened that we get on quite well and we're telling the same, we've got the same mission as well. So it's really nice, really aligned, and it helps the strength in numbers to push the same end goal.
When I'm doing my pretend grown-up job, we have a lot of different kind of plant-based brands that we work with. And I love the way, and we were talking about it, weren't we, with the allergy-free cake company, Just Love, that were on the show 2 weeks ago, that everyone has this same mission. And everyone really believes in this same mission about making a better world, removing animal products from the food chain, whatever it may be. And therefore, no one's seeing anything as competition. Everyone's just seeing collaboration, and we're all on the same team. And it's so, the food industry is lovely anyway. But you're right, there's this area of kind of plant-based that's really like, we're all on the same team here, guys. We're all trying to do the same thing and
For sure.
learning from each other's different areas and things like that. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's good fun. But we are up against giant companies that have been dominating for years. So we need to all pitch in and support each other because, at the end of the day, we're still by far the minority, the plant-based versus the mainstream consumers out there. It's still a very small pond that we're in. So we all need to, to pull together. Otherwise, we're just not going to get to that end goal, which is, like you said, removing the animals from the food chain.
But I think even, with my family, as I said, we do eat meat, but we are trying to be conscious about reducing the amount of meat that we eat. And a lot of my friends are the same. And I think introducing a few days a week where the meals are plant-based or vegetarian as well, or even that, does make a difference. And it makes us feel like we're doing our little bit. That's kind of the way my sister-in-law then became vegan. So it kind of, which I think is how a lot of people choose that lifestyle, because you gradually kind of find your way there. But it's small steps, isn't it? Small steps that people can make.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a gateway diet, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. No, it doesn't have to be overnight. And for a lot of people, I think the flexitarian diet is the end point. But even if everyone adopted that route, we'd be in an amazing place. So we always try and speak positively about people's diet changes and choices. And obviously, we'd love as many people as possible to eat plant-based, but appreciate that someone like my dad, for example, it would be a big shift for him to eat plant-based products more than he currently does, and going vegan is just not an option for him. So yeah, whenever anyone says, where do you want to be in 5 years time, I just say I want my dad to be eating my cheese, because that is progress. That's massive progress, because there's a lot of people like him who are quite conservative with their diets. So.
But do you think that is that generation that have been kind of brought up potentially with the meat and 2 veg kind of meals, whereas the younger generations, we couldn't remember, what was it, Gen what? Gen Z, Gen X? What are we?
We're
Who am I?
it was the Gen Zs we were talking about.
Right, about their kind of decision making, and also the opportunities and the choices available to them are different, and they can be much more mindful in how they shop, whereas I think the generations above don't have that mindset. Maybe it's a huge generalization to say that, but
well, it's changing though. I think what we've noticed is that certainly Gen Z and the younger millennials have massively been driving the change. So we're talking sort of 18 up to about, late 30s.
Oh yeah, that's me.
They've been driving that change. And then they've been having a huge influence on their Gen X parents, who are kind of 40 to 55. And we're also noticing it with the grandparents, that this you can actually, it's almost a secondary and tertiary effect, where you're marketing to the older generation, who might be the ones with the disposable income making those decisions, but are actually, for the first time, like properly listening to their kids and their grandchildren, who are saying, I actually don't want to eat that. I don't agree with that. And it's seeing that change. And it's, we talked about a whole area of marketing that didn't exist before, which was these kind of baby boomers saying, my daughter's decided she's vegan. She's coming home from the weekend, with her boyfriend or her partner or whatever. What am I going to cook for them? And actually wanting to go and learn how to make some vegan food choices. Yeah. And that is fantastic, because when I grew up, you'd have just been told to stick it and eat. Just eat, just eat what's on your plate and be quiet.
Couple of corn sausages if you're lucky.
If you're lucky,
We did some research on our Asda shoppers, but we found out that more than 50% of the people buying them are actually the mums of someone who's vegan, or a mate who's got a couple of veggies coming round. And so you're right, that these younger people are accidentally, sometimes on purpose, influencing all those other generations that would never really be thinking about it. And they're having to now go in and buy the pizza, whether they like it or not. And they end up, being a bit more exposed to it and looking at the information, and suddenly, penny drops, and they may come back and make some changes.
It's when I've got friends coming over for a meal and I want to make sure they feel welcome and catered for and loved in as equal measure as the barbecue or whatever else it is that's being cooked, and making sure that you've actually bought something that feels like they're involved, like being able to make a salad with feta cheese and be like, there's the vegan version of the feta cheese salad, or even just going, let's just make a salad that actually everybody can eat.
That's the dream.
Right.
That's the dream, isn't it? That's gorgeous, that feta cheese. It's lovely. It's got that zingy, salty flavour. It's really great.
It's the umami again for me. It's really, I love umami flavours. That really comes across with that cheese.
Yeah.
I love the cider vinegar in it. It's really subtle, but there is some, isn't there?
Apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that what gives it a slight sweetness almost?
Like it's more of a slight acidic
Like a
flavour.
tang.
Yeah, the tang. And it really carries the flavour through when you've got it with an actual salad, because that's what a feta does super well. It just lifts all the other ingredients.
It's amazing. And then is this a butter?
Yes, so this is a little bit of an exclusive. So this is our first product outside of cheese, and it's our first product using precise fermentation. So it's fairly similar to precision fermentation, but it's not a novel food or GMO product. So we've done the fermentation using plants. But it gives it a real richness of flavor. So we basically replicated boyatic acid, which is one of the key flavor components of butter. So that's it on the flavor side. And then on the fat side, we're using shea butter. So it melts at a really high temperature, because all of the plant-based butters at the moment, they're primarily based on palm oil or coconut oil. So they're really classic margarine, spread well, but they don't have that full functionality. So you can't really bake or cook with them. This melts at the same, if not higher, temperature than butter from our testing. So, you can use it as a spread, but also cook with it super well.
Amazing. And of course, you wouldn't be choosing to eat palm oil anyway, would you?
No,
ideally,
exactly.
but that's amazing. So where does shea butter come from?
So currently North Africa, but it grows in really hot climates, and therefore we're looking into to see if there's any producers who would want to start in Spain, because it's actually been one of the crops that has started to green back the Sahara, for example. So people are using it on the fringes of the Sahara to actually take back parts of the desert. It needs next to no water. So it's a really, really efficient crop, and crops can then grow beneath it as well. So it can provide a sort of canopy as well. So it's a really interesting ingredient.
Wow, that's incredible. Can we try it?
Absolutely. And I would usually want to offer to spread it for you, but I want you to see the texture as well. So.
I'm going to dive in.
I'm watching now to see AJ spreading. Oh,
Wow.
it spreads like butter. Thank you, AJ.
Untouched by human hand.
Have you guys tried a plant butter before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a
Yeah.
lot, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we have plant-based butter at home because my daughter's dairy intolerant.
Yeah, I'm going to get involved as well, Brad.
Yeah,
It's been a
let's
while
go
since
for it.
I've tried this.
Very satisfying, very creamy.
I totally forgot that we were on the radio there and I was supposed to be talking. Sorry. Just enjoying the butter. That's amazingly authentic. That's much better than the one that we use at home, which I'm not going to name.
It's much better than the ones I've tried as well.
Yeah, so that fermentation is what gives it the buttery flavor. And then, yeah, it's the full functionality is such a gem for it as well, because the margarines have actually got super good now. You can get some great ones that spread quite well, quite neutral taste. But if you really want that richness of flavor and you want to bake with it and cook with it, that's kind of what's missing at the moment.
And yeah, I bake a lot actually with vegan butters, and either they're too salty or they're too oily and they split quite a lot of
It
the
sort
time
of
as well.
dissipates the
So
coconut
often
oil.
with most other things, you can kind of work out a like for like. You've got alternatives, but I've struggled a lot with different butters, especially with the salt element. But this is very is there salt in this.
I would personally like it to be saltier, but we'll do a salty
I think it's
version.
very well
But
judged as it is.
we've deliberately done it to be quite neutral to
Yeah.
start with, because of course you can layer it up with salt,
Yeah.
and we will do a salted version as
A
well.
salted version with
Yeah.
some like rock crystal salt and it would be
Exactly.
delicious.
Yeah. Don't
Imagine
worry,
that
that's
as
coming.
first vegan frozen garlic bread.
Ooh.
There we
Cheesy
go.
garlic.
Now
Heard it
you're
here
talking.
first.
Cheesy garlic bread with that butter.
So how long will that take you guys?
We can wait.
Veganuary? What's that?
Yeah, we're not writing anything down, are we? So. Verbal agreement.
Yeah.
We'll be your witnesses.
I think one of the things that I'm really fascinated by is your kind of white cheese there that we're tasting, the kind of feta alternative, being 25 times better for the environment. Like that's fewer
It's
carbon
quite
emissions,
staggering.
right?
Yeah.
And I know you've got a lot of stats on One Planet Pizzas, haven't you?
Yeah, so we worked with a company called My Emissions. They're London-based, very smart bunch of people, and they've created a software that taps into this massive database of food types, food ingredients, and you can basically submit your full recipes and your transport and logistics, the whole supply chain, right from farm of each ingredient to the end store, and they will then work out these carbon scores for your product. So you'll probably see a lot more of these around the next year or two, and we're still waiting for the government to decide if there's going to be a one-stop shop that everyone has to use. But at the moment, there are 3 or 4 options around, and they will give you a score, and it's either a number or a letter. So ours was an A to E score, and then it would be color coded. So you want to really be hitting A's and B's for a plant-based product. Otherwise, it's not too strong an argument if you're a C or a D. So we had them all scored on the new range, and we were surprised because we knew that plant-based generally is, they say roughly it's about 50 to 55% lower in carbon emissions than a meat and dairy rich diet. But when we did it for the actual pizza flavors versus a meaty pepperoni in the Tesco, in the Tesco down the road, we took an average and then compared it to ours, and it was somewhere around 55% lower carbon footprints.
Yeah, wow.
And that was the same across the range. And we thought it was going to be really influenced by the transport and by the fact it's a frozen product. There's a lot of energy going into it, and that's generally what consumers think is taking up most of your emissions. But actually, these guys are constantly educating and informing people, even ourselves in the industry, and saying, that's a big part of it, but actually it's more about the ingredients you're using. And so when you take away your cheese and your pepperoni and replace it with plant-based ones, even if they come from somewhere 3 or 4 times as far away, you're still cutting your emissions by about half, which is amazing. And it's more impressive, the numbers for the cheese, as you heard.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? And I know Matt from My Emissions, and he's often coming up with kind of infographics, isn't he, about this is the equivalent of flying to New York or going on a, and it's when you start to put those pictures into people's minds, you start to realise, wow, I can really genuinely make changes just on making a slightly different decisions when I'm going around a supermarket.
Yeah.
I can actually have a massive impact, and it matters. And if we all do it, and we all just, even if you picked 5 items in your shopping trolley and you swapped them for a more, a lower carbon option, but everybody in the whole country did that, every Asda shopper or Ocado or wherever you shop, that's huge. That's huge very quickly. And I think that's where, we were talking about Gen Zs have so much empowerment about understanding that these tiny choices do matter. Whereas I think we didn't think we were that important growing up, and it didn't really make any difference. And actually, I think we're all loving the fact that it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that would fast track things even further, a carbon tax and also carbon labelling. Joe mentioned the government's looking at it. Couldn't recommend it more, because someone who can do their research is finding out this information, or someone who is doing the research is finding out this information. But to contextualize it and to cross compare it to the dairy alternative and to your daily life as well, such powerful information, because you can see that every meal you're eating is making a massive difference. Like I got the Eurostar this morning, and it says along the banner at the top, it's 13.5 times lower emitting than flying, and it's really powerful, that information. So yeah, I think the more comparisons we have here and the more data, the better, both for the consumer and for companies as well, because you can make better decisions internally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes our argument a lot easier, our job a lot easier, if we can put a number or a score on it, even if it's color coded. Suddenly, when we're going out, because we're always shouting about sustainability and eating more plant-based to help save the planet. And if we can have actual numbers and, an A or B score that we can take to the consumers, and within seconds they get it, then that is just going to make plant-based sector, such an easier sell to the mainstream audience.
Well, it's just an evolvement, isn't it? From the kind of fat and sugar thing that we've all got really used to looking at the bottom. There's just going to be a carbon one below that, isn't there?
For sure.
And that's awesome. Amazing. I can't believe we're out of time already, but thank you so much for coming in. Thank you to Brad Vanston from Willie Croft, and thank you to Joe Hill from One Planet Pizza, and my lovely guest presenter, Susie Pelter. Thanks all very much for everyone for coming in. It's been great to have you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. That was brilliant.
That is a wrap for our first ever show for Food Rebels. What a show. Every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Tune in. We will be here. We're Food Rebels. Thank you so much for listening.